Aloha, everybody. I'm Eva Andrade. On this episode of the Triple F podcast, we're going to ask the question, is entertainment that's made for adults viewable by kids? And should it be? Let's chat about that. Hello, welcome to the show, Jim Hopeberg.
Thank you, Eva Andrade.
Good. Jim.
You kind of have a lot of makeup on today.
I do. I'm in drag.
I didn't want to say it, but I mean, you got a lot of makeup on.
I have a lot of makeup on. See, women have to do this when we go before the camera. We have to like ton the makeup on. Guys can just come and be themselves. But what happens when the guy is the one that shows up with all the makeup?
It's very traumatic. It's scary. It's like a clown for people that don't like clowns.
Okay, but what do you say to the people that say, but what is Halloween? Halloween is guys putting on all kinds of makeup.
No, Halloween is kids putting on costumes and walking up and down
adults.
the block getting candy.
Have you been in Waikiki
but
on
there
Halloween?
Are kids there. I'm
yes,
talking
there
about
are.
the kid part.
Yes, there are. See, I think that that's really the crux of what we need to talk about today. There are parents, and we have to acknowledge this. There are some parents that are very open to their kids seeing and participating in things that other parents would say is inappropriate. And so when do we as Christians, when do we raise our voice and when do we say it's wrong? How do we do it, right? Because this past weekend, there was a drag queen that was reading, or two drag queens that were reading to our
What's the
keiki.
plural of drag queens? I don't know.
Queens.
Okay. I don't know.
Queens? Yes. Okay. Anyway, so you have some people on some side that, and even Christians that will say, well, then you just don't go, right? If you hear that these things are taking place, then you just don't take your kids. And then you have others that say, absolutely not. This is a line that has been crossed and we need to raise our voice.
So I have a different approach.
You always do.
I grew up, when my children were young, I watched them grow up watching Sesame Street. And I think the question relates to the song that they had from time to time on Sesame Street about one of these things is not like the other. One of these things just doesn't belong. Can you tell which one is not like the others before the end of the song or something like that, right? So what we're really talking about is a charity that for decades has provided services to homeless issues, food, shelter, medical care, whatever. They get millions of dollars. It's a big operation, holding a keiki fair at Ala Park to do their homeless outreach. All of those pieces fit together. They all go together. But then on the other hand, they don't advertise the fact that there's also going to be drag queen reading story hour for kids. That piece doesn't go with the others.
I was going to say that. Okay, so personally, I do not think that children should be viewing drag queens performing. And the reason I say that, I want to make this clear.
No, that's okay.
The reason that I say that is because, especially young keiki, they're not looking at it the way adults are looking. Adults are saying this is just entertainment, right? Kids, their brains are not working like that. Kids are probably wondering why is this man in a dress? If they recognize that it's a man, because maybe they don't. They might be thinking, why does this woman look strange?
So let me ask you a question.
What?
We've both seen the evidence of what happened. So we know what the book looked like that was in the video. Mm-hmm. So I want to ask you to tell the audience, what would you say the age group was that the book that was being read on the video was?
Very little.
It's like big picture, couple of words.
Yeah, these
Jack
are for
and Jill
very,
kind of,
and that's what,
right.
and that's my point. So kids that young, they're not looking at it as entertainment. They're not. They probably don't even really understand the book. I will tell you that if I was not a Christian and I didn't know anything about anything, and I just heard the words they were using, it was very positive, right? I'm talking about
the book language.
Well, and even what they were saying, from their stage, they were saying things about accepting yourself and that you're precious and that you're unique, right? So, I mean, so people who are not born again, people that don't know Jesus are thinking these are positive words. Why would you be opposed to that? But add that to the point that the kid is sitting there watching this definitely overly zealous woman. So say they don't realize this is a man in drag, right? They're probably, unless their mom, and most of these people are homeless. So let's remember that, right? These kids, they're probably not used to seeing all of that. You know,
Well,
the
they're not used to
hairspray,
their own mom
that's what I
having
mean.
all that
Yeah,
makeup.
so they're probably more, and kids love color. They love color, they love music, they love sound. So they're probably like looking at that, like just kind of processing, what is this?
Like a circus.
Yeah, because, and okay, there you go, right? You have clowns that dress a lot of makeup and stuff like that too. So we're not opposed to the idea of entertainment. What we're opposed to is, when do you present information to a child that they cannot process yet? And how does that affect them as they're growing?
But there's a lot of different kinds of entertainment, some of which parents can get in trouble for bringing their underage children to. Like R-rated movies. You can be 17 or something like that with a parent. If you're under 17 with a parent, your parent can get in trouble. I would think, what are they called? Strippers. That's entertainment for adults in those places, but you certainly shouldn't be bringing kids in there.
And I think that's why a lot of people are upset today, Jim. I think that people are beginning to say that line has become so blurred, not by Christians, because Christians are clear, what they want their kids to have access to. But it goes back to that point you made. When Family Promise, which is the organization that sponsored this, sent out the flyer said absolutely nothing about having a drag queen story hour. And so the flyer is normally the thing that people are going to take out into the community.
Well, an unidentified friend of mine sent me an email that was a newsletter email from Family Promise Hawaii about the event.
Right. And in that email,
it said,
yes,
we're going to have the drag queens. It said,
in the email,
please use the poster link to advertise it. And the poster didn't say anything about it.
Exactly. So unless you're getting these direct emails from them, you're not going to know that happens. So say you're an organization that has supported Family Promise, and I have heard that Christians and churches have supported Family Promise. I know that Family Promise has partnered with churches to use their facilities, right? So they're going to send that out. And if those people don't have access to that email, they're going to think this is a great thing, right? And we're going to take a look at, in a moment, we're going to take a look at the actual news reporting that Hawaii News Now did after the event to show what was happening during the event. And as you mentioned, Family Promise has done good work to provide things to people that are in need, right? Things like food, things like shelter, medical care, that sort of thing. So
hygiene.
So I'm going to take this flyer because I've partnered with them before. I'm putting on the hat of someone who has. I'm not saying that I've done it personally, but anyway, and I'm going to promote this event because I partnered with them. They do good work. And suddenly I show up at this event with my children because they make it like this is a fair, this is going to be fun, we're going to have all these fun things. And now my kids are exposed to something that I didn't have the opportunity to opt my child out, because I know that some of the people I was watching when the Christian community found out about the event, they were all posting on Facebook, right? There was a lot of upset. People were like, we can't let this happen in Hawaii. This is not good. And I saw a lot of people on the other side are saying, then don't take your kids.
Right.
And I'm like, that would be great if people knew.
Right.
Right. Now, Family Promise can say, but we said it in the email. It should have been on the poster. Now, a poster was going around that did have them on there, but that was done by the one of the two drag performers actually added that on there. Why not? They want
for their friends.
Well, of course, because they're promoting themselves. They wanted people to know they were going to do it. So my issue, I think that if somebody 18 years and older, Jim, wants to go watch a drag show, they are free to do so. And I realize that the Christians are listening to this and they're like, no. I'm just saying that adults who are making that choice are free to do it. but an adult's choice has been taken away from them when they don't know
Correct.
that this is going to happen. And I think that's
I
the
agree.
issue.
I agree. Let's watch.
Okay, let's watch.
First at 10, tensions flared today at a Keiki community fair at a public park that featured drag performers. As Eddie Dowd explains, organizers say they consider the event a success despite the controversy.
That's how you find out what it's all about. Get into a book, here, come take a look at the words that you see.
Organizers for this event tell me the focus was on food distribution and offering services to the community's most vulnerable. But protesters tell me when they found out it included drag performers reading to children, they say it crossed the line and wanted to show up today to make their voices heard. HPD presence was heavy to respond to clashes like this one between supporters and opponents of the event.
You know, people think that we're against the gay community, and we're not. We're not even against the trans community, but when you bring it to our children, you've crossed the line.
The event was organized by the nonprofit Family Promise of Hawaii, which has helped homeless families and children for almost 2 decades.
So we have bags full of prepackaged, shelf-stable food from the food bank.
So not just about drag.
Not just about drag, in fact. The fair's primary goal, of course, is to provide free resources and services to families who need it in the community.
On Saturday, supporters formed a line in front of the event at A'ala Park to block the protesters who held signs like "Protect Our Keiki" and "Jesus Saves from the Wrath of God."
Crab, but you know how grumpy he can get.
Or crabby. Yeah.
Drag is an art form, and it takes many forms, and it can totally be family friendly.
Some critics said they were also concerned taxpayer money was being used to support an event with drag performers. Now the State Department of Health says it does contract funds to Family Promise and says some of those funds were used for things like renting tents, tables, and chairs for the event. However, the DOH claims no money went to fund the drag performances. Eddie Dowd, Hawaii News Now.
So I want to let people know that maybe we're listening and didn't see the 2 drag performers were dressed very tastefully. Now I say that with air quotes.
Actually,
because
it was almost professional work clothes.
Right. So,
except for the makeup and the hair.
Well, okay. Yeah. Well, they're drag artists, obviously. Right. You know, I mean, I know friends that when they're doing their own makeup, and these are women that'll say, I'm going to go a little drag today. Right. I mean, there's you know
Can
this.
you say that?
Yeah, I can, because
Okay.
I know what it means. It means that when you overly apply the makeup and really are dramatic in the way that you do. So I want to be clear that we're not saying that they did anything quote unquote distasteful. But what we're saying again is Family Promise, who has been around, according to that news story, for 2 decades, right? 20 years, that have been providing things to the homeless community. The thing that was interesting to me about the story, the executive director of Family Promise made it very clear that the purpose of the event, right, was to do good things for the community and to provide necessary. But they never mentioned what they provided at that event that the Department of Health provided them money for. What I would have made it clear that we spent $6,200 on this event, and $5,000 of that went to feed the homeless and to provide whatever. Obviously, those drag performers were paid.
You think so?
It said in there that the money didn't go to the drag performers. So they didn't
I thought
say
maybe
that.
it meant they weren't paid.
I don't know, but that would be a thing again.
But Family Promise also got $2 million a year or two ago from Bezos, which isn't government money, or Bezos. So they could have used that money. But I was assuming if I was trying to market something, as I always do a lot of stuff without charging, right? Maybe the drag guys did it without charging for the opportunity.
But that's my point. My point is that if the purpose of the event was truly to do this community service, I, in my communications hat, would have made it very clear that this is what I provided. And this was the drag the drag queen performance was very small, and I would do that because that would prove that everybody else was overreacting.
But they didn't.
But they didn't. The whole thing was really about these two drag queens. And I think the other thing too is that when our community began to rise up and be angry, they started forwarding. Not only did they forward the information that they were going to be there, I saw links.
Well, these two drag people have nasty videos.
They do, and
their
our
show.
people was forwarding that out to show people how bad they are. And don't give them that attention. You know, you could simply say that, you know, they've done other stuff before, and you can do a simple search. I would never ever give a link directly to a bad. I just wouldn't do it. Now, I'm not condemning anybody who did anything, because people are going to do what they're feel like they need to do in order to get the word out.
Have we not learned that?
We have not. And I know that
we have.
I know we have. And I know you have a clip that you want to show too.
Before I get to my clip.
Well, let me say this real quickly though. So this is not the first time this has happened. In 2017 on the Big Island, there was actually the
Probably
university
the
up
same
there
too. Who knows?
No, it was different. They were different. So there were two. The university up on the Big Island decided they were going to do a drag queen story hour, and
for four kids.
And then what happened was, in the summer of 2017, there was a big outcry. The community said we don't want it, and then
so they canceled it.
No, they postponed it.
Well, they canceled it, but they resurrected it because they thought it was Easter.
No, the news story says it was postponed
after the fact,
because
that was after
the
fact,
and then they actually ended up having so. And I think that some of the people that were trying to let people know that it was happening here in Oahu was hoping that the two drag queens would end up not showing up. But I knew that wasn't going to happen. These guys like attention. I mean, that's why they do what they do. So in fact, they were probably happy because they probably got more views and more knowledge about who they are and what they do than they probably have gotten in the last year. So sometimes you don't want to promote too much.
So I want to share two things before we get to my video. One is, if you go online, you can find the Family Promise Hawaii grant applications for government money over the years. Mm-hmm. And so I did, and I read them, and I was very interested to see the justification that they repeat almost like a mantra to the government when they're asking for money. And it's interesting because they use this phrase over and over and over again to get money, but they didn't recognize that this phrase was being violated potentially by the drag show at the place with the kids. Here's what they say over and over. And I'm going to read from their application. It says, quote, "This is an urgent issue because homelessness is traumatic for children and families. Trauma can have long-term impacts for young children's physical and mental health, academic success, and other indicators." So if the reason Family Promise is in operation and the reason our tax dollars are being given to them is to help avoid and overcome experienced trauma from homelessness for kids that are homeless, I'm kind of surprised. I would think they would have pondered whether drag queens are going to be traumatic to homeless kids, because they kind of look like clowns. And I have a child, one of my kids, who's in 30 years old, to this day hates seeing clowns for some reason. Well, clowns really freak him out. So that was one point. But so we don't run out of time, I just wanted to mention that's odd, very, very odd. The other thing is, I called a retired Christian friend of mine that's retired HPD. And I said, what is it that would be a violation of the law for drag people to read to children in Hawaii under Hawaii law? And we had a very long conversation about it. And apparently, as long as men being dressed up like women at least wear bikinis, they're clothed enough not to be lewd. And as long as their actions aren't simulating sex things in front of children or other illegal things that you're not allowed to do regardless of what you're wearing in front of children, it wouldn't be illegal. And I said, well, what about that contributing to the delinquency of a minor thing. And I didn't know this. We don't have that law in Hawaii.
Wow.
Which I was like, wow, are you kidding me? So one thing our listeners can do is start talking to your legislators about, I think these days maybe it's time for a law which prohibits contributing to the delinquency of a minor.
And I think we'd like to also encourage people. Here's a couple of ways you can get involved in this. Number one, if you're somebody who likes to read to children, I suggest you call Family Promise and volunteer your time, that you'd love to read to children, and tell them that you won't charge for it. And I think that this is a great opportunity.
That's a good idea.
For all
as long as you're a good public speaker.
That's what I mean.
You can read.
So if people have said to you, you're really good at this, then I think that you need to be doing this. And I want you to contact me, Eva, at hawaiifamilyforum.org, if Family Promise says to you that they're not interested. Because that would tell you something, right? That they're going to go one way. So that's one way you could get involved. The other thing that you might want to do is find out which organizations supported this. Now, I saw on a Facebook posting that Jack James, he was one of the individuals that was really trying to get the word out. He said that he heard that 2 of the sponsoring organizations pulled out, but he did not mention who they were. So I still would recommend that maybe you find out who these sponsoring organizations are and you call them. You don't have to do it in an obnoxious way. In fact, I strongly encourage you to not be obnoxious when you call.
Of course, we're always like that.
You and I can do it. We can get away with it. But no, we want people to do
we're
things
almost running out of time, and we
with
got that
aloha, and we want to make sure that we are telling them that we're unhappy with what they're doing. Pull a Bud Light. That's what I'm saying. But here's a clip that Jim would like to also bring to your attention.
So the clip is not from the news. It's from a friend that was there. So it's from a cell phone. Your stuff was professional. This is a little bit not. But the reason I want us to see it is faith is part of this show. FFF, Faith Family First. And this little 30-second clip we'll come back to, but this is the 2 drag guys on stage and doing an interesting thing that I want to chat a little bit about. Go ahead.
Wait. Let's try it one more time. Sorry, I know it's a lot. But let's just sink in what those words mean right now. I am beautiful, unique, and priceless. Yes, you are. I am more than enough. Just as I am. Just as I am. And that's the chant. You did it, guys. Great job.
So there's something interesting about that. That is a message that I think Christians should watch and listen to and have a broken heart, have an absolute broken heart, because those 2 men were asking the community to tell them that they were okay just the way they are, because deep inside they have to be women because they dress like women because they don't feel okay just the way they are. And I think as a body of believers, we need to pray about that for them, because it's got to be terribly painful.
We have to become so welcoming in a sense that people that are broken will flock to us. We need to represent Christ in such a deep way that people, when they're in our presence, they want what we have. And sometimes without words. I think that it's very hard in this day and age for kids that are struggling with their sexuality because they're getting mixed messages. I don't care whether they're being raised in a Christian home or not. There are so many horrible messages being tossed at our kids from Hollywood, from YouTube videos, TikTok, all of this stuff. So kids are getting confusing messages. I want them to hear the message of the Savior, that voice that it tells them that I made you. You know what? Exactly
you
what
really
they just said.
are exactly okay.
What all they
without
everything
all
they
this.
said.
Exactly.
I want them to imagine Jesus saying that to them.
Exactly.
You are precious. You are unique. You are carved on the palm of my hand. I love you that much that you don't need to fear the way that you were made at all, because you were made in the image and likeness of God. And that's the message. So as we end the show today, we want to encourage you guys to stay plugged in. Again, reach out to these sponsoring organizations and let them know that you were unhappy with this. Definitely, especially if you've partnered with Family Promise, we encourage you to contact Family Promise and tell them exactly how grateful you are for the good work they've done in the community on the issues of feeding the homeless and providing necessary services. And again, volunteer your time if you're a great storyteller. If you know someone who's a great storyteller, we've got great Christian.
Maybe you and I should go tell stories.
Oh my
we
gosh.
can make them up on the spot. Nobody will have ever
we
heard
could do
them
a whole
before.
Monty Python. Unique. So make sure you stay plugged in. Like this video. Make sure you share it. Hit that notification button so you know every time we upload a new video. Comment. We're starting to get some comments. I love that. And for those of you that are hanging in there with us and wishing us a good, hang in there. Thank you so much for hanging with us. And for those of you that have nothing to do, make sure you watch this video and then send it to all your friends. So we will see you next week. Mahalo, everybody.
Aloha.